meeting of the Ambridge Area School District is held on Wednesday, March 11th, 2020. This meeting is being held to go over the agenda for the regular monthly board meeting that will be held on Wednesday, March 18th, 2020 at 7 p.m. in the High School Media Center. Please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being recorded for district purposes. It is or may be published in part or in its entirety on the district's website without the express permission of meeting participants. The opinions expressed by any member of the public do not necessarily reflect the view or opinion of the Ambridge Area School District Board of School Directors or the Ambridge Area School District and are solely that of the speaker. The Ambridge Area School District Board of School Directors hereby expressly disclaims any and all responsibility or liability for any false, defamatory, or slanderous statements expressed by the speaker. Can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Angus?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Ms. Gill?
Here.
Mrs. Kehoe?
Here.
Mrs. Mylan?
Here.
Ms. Pettigo?
Here.
Ms. Trimmer?
Here.
Ms. Young?
Here.
Mrs. Fisher?
Here.
9 present.
Thank you. Is there any correspondence?
No correspondence.
No correspondence. Next is student-teacher recognition. Mr. Boer?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. It's truly a privilege to recognize one of our students. Not only is he an excellent athlete, he is an excellent academic student as well here at Ambridge Area High School. Daniel Yetzig, with his victory at the Montour D'Ors on Saturday, February 1st, set a new Ambridge Area High School wrestling record for his career victories. He was also voted at that competition as Wrestler of the Day by the coaches present. Again, this award is not something that Daniel earned just by going to the regular practices here at Ambridge Area High School. He always went above and beyond, practiced after practice when the season was over, practiced during the summer with help from parents up and down the East Coast at meets. Daniel was ranked in the top 6 in the WPIAL, the top 20 in the state in his weight class, and he has made a Division I commitment to Davidson College for the fall of 2020. Daniel's overall record is 125 wins. I'd like to at this time congratulate an outstanding student and an outstanding athlete.
Daniel. I was going to say. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Mr. Boer, congratulations. Do you want a picture?
Oh.
Moving on to presentations. We have a presentation tonight by Dr. Joe Pascarilla with his superintendent's entry plan.
Good evening. Excuse me. Good evening, everyone. I just want to kind of briefly go over, there you go, an entry plan here for the board, and I'll try to go through this, and if there are any questions from the board or anyone else, please do so. I know it's time sensitive, so I'll try to be mindful of that. This is just a brief letter about the entry plan that kind of discussed the fact that it's really important to have meaningful. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think it's really important that we have some meaningful feedback from the community. It's important to be very visible and encourage feedback, and also to kind of have a plan for 30 days going into when I actually start and throughout the next 90 days. So that's kind of what that is. A little bit about myself. I'm from a family of educators. My father and mother were both teachers. My dad was a guidance counselor. My mother taught 3rd grade and was a principal for some time. So this is what we do. This is from my grandmother. She always said, "You are better than no one, and no one is better than you." I think that's really important when you think about dealing with public students, a variety of stakeholders. It's important to keep that in mind. A little bit about me: I was a high school teacher. I taught social studies at grades 9 and 12. I was a principal in an elementary school. I was the curriculum director and assistant to the superintendent here in Ambridge. And then I was the superintendent at both Northgate School District, Bethel Park, and now here at Ambridge. A little bit about my education. I went to Youngstown State for my undergraduate, my master's, and got my doctorate from the University of Pittsburgh. You probably know this about your school district. Obviously, we have our five buildings there, and roughly around 2,400 students. What I know about it: tight-knit community, extensive extracurricular opportunities, commitment to the arts and music. Just, it's going to come up later, but had the opportunity to see the musical. How about that, right? I mean, I thought it was excellent. Hopefully you had the opportunity to see that as well. Very impressed. Education, arts, and sports. We had a student athlete here that we're congratulating. Excellent programs and a variety of opportunities for our students to be engaged. Also STEAM initiatives that's going across the country, the state, and here in Ambridge, working on some things in and around STEAM. And I know there's been some talk about A21, looking at some interventions. That's something that I'd have to kind of get a little more familiar with and talk with some of the key stakeholders and teachers. I won't read you everything in the district's mission and vision, but I think in particular, a couple points that I really liked is the development of a positive self-esteem is necessary for individual growth. We want to find a place where all of our students feel welcome and belong, and they have great self-esteem. I also think that it's important that in preparation of students to become lifelong learners in an ever-changing global society, because our world changes. And we have to provide a variety of opportunities, not solely looking at just 4 years, but we have 4-year colleges and institutions. We have to make that available, but we have to look at trade skills, military, etc. Everything that's available for our students. On that, I also really believe, and you'll see this a little later, about accountability, because I think accountability is essential, and setting high expectations. If you don't set high expectations, then you're just settling. So we've got to have high expectations, and we have to hold ourselves accountable, including myself, as to how we're going to get there. So what do you want to do in the first 30 days? You want to learn, listen, you want to engage, you want to build and develop partnerships and support with the district. You want to grow, you want to create a visible presence within the school and the community and the buildings, talking to everyone, every member of the staff, from custodial to secretary to our teaching staff, our administration team, the board, the community. It's important. Start to set some goals as a district amongst with the board and the staff as some things that we're going to look to try to accomplish. These are the different areas that I'm going to cover here. You could break these down in a variety of ways, but these are some key points that I think we're going to need to talk about. When you're talking about governance, we want to look at our organizational chart. We want to meet with the board to discuss the district's future needs. We want to meet with the board and committee chairs to review some current work. Where are we on some things? Where did it stall out? Why did it stall out? How can we continue to move forward? We want to analyze all of our policies through PSBA, talk those things through, and look at union contracts that are up to date and try to figure out how we might be able to settle those and get language and fair deals that work for all parties. We want to review our comprehensive plan and work with that, and also look to work with our solicitor on any legal matters that might be there. Instruction, probably the most important thing that we do, right? That's what we're here for, to help our students learn and be engaged. So, well, how do we do that? My theory has always been to try to get some walkthrough observations done, go into the classroom, see what's going on, talk to the kids, talk to the teachers, see what they're learning, and try to support them. Review some instructional initiatives informally and effectively with the administration and teaching staff, and kind of think about what might we do in the future, what ones are really working, what might we want to change. Obviously, testing is a part of it for PSSAs and Keystones, changing in regulations and laws, looking at timelines in and around that. I think it's important that we look at our Career and Technical Education Center and really try to figure out what's all being offered there and make sure our students understand those opportunities, because there could be things that they're not aware of that they'd really benefit from there. Review the effectiveness of the differentiated instruction model if we were going to do that, and most importantly, looking at response to intervention and what are we doing currently in our buildings to look at a tiered approach to help students and to make sure all students learn and grow and reach their full potential. Review the current process of data analysis. I always feel that the best conversations are had when we look at data. It's not personal. We look at the data, we discuss the data, and that allows us to know what worked and what didn't work and what we could do to make our decisions in the future. Special education, we want to review that. We want to review the recent audits and child find. We want to look at what we're doing in our 339 school counseling plan and the career indicators. Again, looking at STEAM, making sure that our curriculum is aligned to the PA core standards. That's very important in my opinion, because at the end of the day, that's what we're gauging our curriculum towards, is making sure we're instructing to all of the standards that are out there and eligible content. Review with administrators research-based instructional strategies. Some of these necessarily just good practice. What's going on really well? Think, pair, share with another teacher in a building. What have they done that's really worked with a group of students that might be beneficial to other students, and share that out. Identify the structure of the special education and Title I programs currently. What types of interventions are being provided, and how can we both use staff to make sure that we excel and get some results, not only on standardized testing, but also making sure that all students learn and grow and have the opportunity to reach their full potential. Facilities, we're going to need to tour the buildings and grounds and kind of come up with a plan, looking at HVAC, copiers, elevators, look at the current contracts, look at projects, plan for those accordingly in prioritized order, knowing that sometimes priorities shift depending on the need of the district and what comes up. So talk to the board a little bit about that. Identify associated costs with those types of projects and talk about how we're going to budget that for well into the future. Present potential projects to the board and determine whether they'd be necessary for bid or things that we can do in-house or things that we're going to have to bid out, and make sure we do that within the necessary regulations and timelines. Finance, obviously, like everything else, there's taxpayers and we have to be mindful of the budget. So we're going to have to review expenditure and revenue reports, meet with business manager to review the trends in our expenditures, and look at some cost-saving measures that might be available to us. If we're facing a deficit, then we're going to have to look at how we're going to balance the budget and how we're going to prioritize things for our students. So some ways you could do that is to review 3 years worth of reporting or audits, identify outside placement costs, cyber charter costs, so on and so forth. Tax collection rates, how much are we bringing in on our tax collection rates? Are we using accurate numbers when it comes to that? What are the trends? How do we get delinquent taxes back in? Those types of things. Determine revenue and generating possibilities. I mean, when we talk about refinancing, that may or may not be an option, and if it is, my opinion has always been, and it continues to be, that that's something that you don't want to use for one-time expenditures. That would be something that you would want to see that cuts off a piece of our debt payment every year, as opposed to saying, let's use that money to pay for something and just create another spending cliff. That's not effective in my professional opinion. Determine revenue generating possibilities. I kind of talked about that, and look at a lot of grants that are available that are out there for some of our needs as well. And review healthcare consortium rates, trends, and rates for that. Technology, obviously technology is really important for the 21st century learner, so we have to be mindful of that. Assess what technology we're using, how we're able to offer differentiated professional development for our staff using technology, and differentiated instruction for our students. I always say this, though, you can't replace good, solid quality teaching and education. These are tools that allow our students to get out there and advocate and differentiate maybe a lesson, but you cannot replace good, solid education and good, solid teaching and instruction. So I always make sure I reiterate that. So we need to meet as a team with teachers and technology leaders and determine what softwares are we really using, what softwares are we not using, what is our plan to keep. Last thing you want to do is have a computer and have access and spend half the period logging in and out. By this point, we have to know how we're going to effectively utilize the technology to engage learners. Personnel in general, just identifying where are we utilizing current personnel and where could they best be fit what type of hiring process do we currently have? Do we need to hire anywhere? What are the staffing needs, looking at current retirements, whether you're going to replace those or not replace those types of items. Identify all part-time employees as well to kind of analyze, is that beneficial? Are we paying benefits? Are we not paying benefits? What does that look like? Kind of reviewing the principal effectiveness tool with the principals and working on their development and administration. What kind of goals are they working on? What are the SLOs? What SLOs are being completed by our teaching staff as well? And how does that create and connect to our vision? And what does that look like? PIMS, that's basically data collection. That's something that I know a group of people are all going to work together on, and it's very important that that is accurate, both for testing, child accounting, funding, etc. Identify staffing needs, I kind of talked about that, and hold meetings with administrative teams to open up communication lines as well as with teachers and staff. Community, try to attend school events. I did say I had the opportunity to attend the musical. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed that. So continue to try to attend events where you can see our students doing excellent things, get the positive word out there. Make welcoming remarks at events and just kind of make myself available to talk with folks will be important for me. And meet with some of these folks. It's a big list. I don't know if I'll make it through all of those in the first 30 or 60 days, but looking at police chiefs and magistrates and our local representatives and so on and so forth. PTOs, how can we all work together to share that vision? That might take me a little longer, but our goal is to be an active member in working out and building partnerships with those folks. Safety and security is an issue, as we know, in the world that we're living in now. So, I mean, I always look at things by saying, are we safer today than we were yesterday? Obviously, you could always do more and more and more, but what are we doing in the sense of having a safety committee? What kind of drills are we running? What are the expectations of those drills, and when are they happening? Reviewing crisis plans and evacuation procedures and making them go from just a binder to something that they actually utilize effectively, which is tough because there's a lot of time that goes into that, but it's a very important topic as well. So it's something that we have to remember. Also prioritizing any upgrades to the physical plant. Some of those things could be simply procedures, making sure doors are locked, making sure we're following the appropriate sign-in, sign-out procedures. Some of that is more on the idea of how would we make sure that we restructure some physical plant to keep people as safe as possible. So those are things that we're gonna look at. And then obviously costs associated with those, because if we all put ideas out on how we can make our school buildings safe, all those ideas are probably good ideas, but which ones can we afford and which ones will rise to the level of these are the ones what we're going to decide to do at the present time. A little bit about vision for leadership. From the way I see it, you got to lead by example. Actions speak louder than words. You have to be willing to be in the buildings and talking with people. And that's something I've always tried to pride myself on, and something that I really felt valuable. Even sometimes when you go down to buildings, you have good conversations. They may not necessarily, when you hear somebody's opinion, change what you did from their perspective to what they were looking for, but by hearing what they have to say, you might have tweaked what you did, and I think it's good conversation. I think it's good conversation for people to see you out there in the trenches. Sometimes you can't solve the problem for them, but at least they know you're in there trying to support them and be there with them. So that's something that I try to do. So you want to value the input, as I was saying there, be extremely visible, be proactive and see beyond the moment, which is always difficult, especially in an era of social media. Anymore, it seems like you're always looking like you're reactive, even though you're trying to be proactive. So what are some kind of things that we could get out there and share together as an entire school district that we're doing well? My theory is sometimes news is going to come one way or another, but the more things that we could get out that we're doing really well, celebrating, great student athletes, celebrating events like you see on your website, and getting that news out and inviting people there for all the types of great things that we're doing is something that we should continue to try to focus on. It takes a village to raise a child. That's on my line. You've probably heard that, but really looking at everyone is involved. Our secretaries, our custodians, the bus driver, cafeteria, everyone has an impact, and knowing that we're all here for a student and they can build that rapport is going to be really important, and that they feel that they are important, and trying to keep communication open to all stakeholders, and that's a challenge. I've said this about technology. You've got to use it to engage students, but can't replace good teaching. Providing students opportunities to become involved in extracurricular activities, and whether that's clubs, music, sports, just a variety of opportunities for kids. We want this to be a place where everyone feels comfortable and they feel like there's something that they can belong to, something that they're contributing to. So I think that's important. And consistency and fairness is essential, and I think that's 100% true. You can't deal cut. You have to kind of be the kind of person that says, this is the way it is, this is the way I see it. Some people are going to agree with that, some people are not going to agree with that, but we have to be fair and consistent, and you have to be open and honest about that, and that's something I'm going to try to really do. Place students first in decision making. That's something that we always try to do, and we have to prioritize when we look at all the wants and needs of all of our students to try to come up with a comprehensive plan and spending within the budget that we can do. And that's a difficult one as well. Special education is a service, it's not a place. Do what's best for every child. Sometimes there's this idea that, you know, this placement in least restrictive environment when you're dealing with special education is to put the student out or to ultimately leave the student in. Really, you have to look at the services that the child needs and see where you can best provide those in a least restrictive environment. So I think that's what I'd be looking to do there with our special services and Mr. King working on that. Remain hands and minds on in the development, implementation, and follow through of district initiatives. You know, that's something I'm really passionate about, and you'll see that in one of the last slides here. The idea that we got buy-in, we've talked about it, but now we actually have to do something. If you don't actually implement, then you're going to spend a lot of time talking and not enough time doing. You could always get it started and come back and reflect and see what worked and what didn't work and go from there. Acknowledgement of a job well done, we all like that. I like that. Everyone likes that. We need to be mindful that we have to focus on people who are trying to do their best and they're working hard. And when they do something really well, we have to acknowledge that. And that's something that's important. We all need that. And it's not mine, it's not yours, it's ours. It's something that we've got to try to work through. We're going to have different opinions, and that's okay sometimes, but we've got to try to work together for what is the common good there. So accountability, as defined by myself, is really gathering input and buy-in, clear and effective direction for implementation. You've got to have clear and effective direction. People have to understand what you're asking them to do. And then you have to have active and engaged follow-through by observable performance. Meaning that too often, and I think about this, I always used to say when I was a teacher in the classroom, something that would frustrate me is always remember the things you liked, sure, but what was something that you didn't like? One of the things that I personally didn't like was when we started down something, we heard about it, we got excited, and then we never did it. It just kind of died on the vine. You ran out of time, you didn't do it. So I think accountability is key. If you want people to do it, they may not completely agree, but you have to support them. You have to tell them this is what we're going to do, this is the vision, we're going to try that, I've heard your input. See it through, hold them accountable, and then go back and reflect as to see how well we did. So I think that's important. So I sincerely look forward to meeting our students and parents and staff and community members. Some I know, some I'm going to meet for the first time, and I'm excited about that. I'm honored to serve as the role of superintendent here at Ambridge, and I'm convinced that together, if we all work together, even though we may not always agree, and we have some tough decisions and a tough road at times, if we bond together and work and try to work together, we're going to see some positive results, which is going to best meet the needs of our students and community. So that was kind of the plan there. Sorry.
Thank you.
Didn't mean, I realized that. Sorry.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Joe at all? Okay.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Great, moving forward to public comment regarding agenda items only. The meet and discuss meetings are open to the public. At this time, district residents may come forward to comment or ask questions on agenda items only. Each person must state their first and last name and address prior to speaking. Each person will be allowed 3 minutes and can speak only once during this half-hour period. There will be no discussion during this time, but any board member or administrator desiring to address questions or concerns may do so at the conclusion of the committee reports.
Casey Deviney, Economy. I just had a question. In looking at this under personnel hiring, would that be on on next month or next week's meeting, and I'm hoping that there's a teacher, long-term sub, or a teacher for computer in the middle school.
Currently, there's an interview, a lesson interview tomorrow.
Perfect. That's, so just so I know to follow up next week, but that was mine, I didn't see it on. Thanks.
Anyone else? Nope. Okay, moving forward to the committee reports. Education and Technology, Ms. Trimber.
Okay, item number 1, it is recommended that proposal of the 2020-2021 school year calendar to be approved. Item number 2 is the field trip, the middle school trip to Gettysburg. It's recommended to rescind the dates approved for item 6 under Education Technology on the February 19th, 2020 board agenda. It is further recommended to approve the corrected dates of the Gettysburg, PA and Hershey, PA field trip and approve the correct dates of April 17th through April 19th, 2020.
So,
Does anybody have any questions on this item? And I'm probably
I
sure
do,
what it is.
yes.
I'm gonna address
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Obviously, what is happening currently with, that is going on with the coronavirus, the question is, what's happening with field trips?
Right now, other districts that I've just heard, and it changes every hour about what's going on, especially today. I've heard that other districts are starting to cancel field trips and do things of that nature. And until we get this thing under control, I would recommend canceling that field trip.
I agree with that too.
I agree, and that's why I was gonna talk about it, because as you know.
And they've
concern.
recalled all our professional conferences to Hershey and Pittsburgh and everywhere else for employees as well. You know, like PDE's been doing that on their own.
Right. So,
Anybody else?
So will this be removed from the agenda then for next week?
Removed.
We're voting.
do we have to vote on it?
We would
Okay.
remove it for
Okay.
next week.
Okay. Item number 3 is the field trip. It is recommended to Marie Duar, the high school band teacher, be authorized to take the Ambridge Area High School Band to Nashville, Tennessee from December 3rd through December 8th, 2020 to participate in a Nashville Christmas parade. There will be no cost to the district. Parents or guardians will be required to sign permission and release forms. Chaperones will be required to have current clearances, satisfactory drug screening, TB testing, and responses by current and former employers to act at the 168 screening. Any questions there? Okay.
I mean, it's next year, so.
Yep, I think we have time yet, so.
Megan, excuse me, before you go on number 2, the field trip for the middle school, if we're gonna take it off for next week, do we still need to go back in and rescind the permission we already gave for it previously on the wrong dates?
Yes.
So we need to add that to the agenda.
Right.
And change the motion to
Amend.
rescind the field trip that was approved.
Okay.
Okay. So item number 4 is uninterpretable power supply. It is recommended that the lowest qualified bidder will be approved for the purchase of the UPS, batteries that support the district's network infrastructure. Bids must be awarded on March 20th, 2020, according to the E-rate approval protocols. This project will not exceed $8,000 after the E-rate subsidy approval. Any questions? Okay. All right. Item number 5, it is recommended that the Ambridge Area School District participate in the BCWON consortium for telecommunications and internet access services, pricing through the Beaver County Intermediate Unit, which is approximately $3,900. The district has participated in this in the past, so. Any questions here? Okay.
All right, thank you. Moving forward with
I'm
finance.
sorry, I do have a question about number 5. I know, being on the library board, that in the past, that the library has also had, has access with the telecommunications services. Will that continue
Yes,
through this
you
also?
get the services, I think, through our network and our wide area.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that will continue.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, moving forward to finance and budget, Ms. Pedigo.
Thank you, Mrs. President. Before I open up the items for discussion, I just thought it'd be appropriate for us to talk about the budget workshops, for those up for discussion. So these would be public budget workshops where we would talk about the drafts of the budget and where the public would be able to come and ask questions and provide ideas, to be honest, ideas and just be a part of it. So do we have any recommendations for timing for that?
I'm gonna actually be meeting with Dr. Pascarella on Monday to talk about the budget. I don't know when. A lot of this is gonna hinge on some budget with staffing projections they're gonna be making. We're still looking at some of the contracts, and we obviously have a teacher's contract that we're negotiating. So there's a lot of unknowns, but I think, I don't know when he'll be comfortable, but I can meet anytime. I really have, our initial draft was ready in February. We've been working pretty diligently. We've already cut out over $3.5 million from that initial draft, but we still have a substantial deficit to work with. So as soon as you're comfortable, I'm ready to go too. We can meet whenever. I don't know whether you'd be more comfortable with us meeting first and then maybe sending some dates out to you that might work. Once Dr. Pascarella has a chance to look at it, because I know he hasn't really had a chance to look at anything. And staffing's gonna be a huge part of that.
Right.
Would that be better if we get some dates after we meet next Monday and send them out to you?
Yes.
Or even
Yes.
next Wednesday, we could set some dates?
That's what I think. So if
Okay.
if you wanna propose those to us, I believe, over the last couple of years, we've tagged them on to these meetings.
Other board meetings, yes.
Yep, so that,
Okay.
those board members and community members that would like to come can just make it a part of their evening.
Okay. Yeah, that's what we'll look at, and then we'll give you some suggestions next week for dates to have those meetings.
Great, thanks, Doug.
Sure.
Okay, so item number 1 and 2 are approval for both the school district monthly bills and salaries and the cafeteria monthly bills and salaries. Number 3 is the capital project expenditure. It's recommended that $403,062.39 be paid from capital projects fund. This is for the paving project, and Doug, I think you have an update.
Well,
on
this
that.
is for the paving project at Economy. That project, I think we initially had a quote of $750,000. That project right now is about $175,000 under budget. So we were able to skip a lot of the different, when we milled down, we didn't have to replace all the sub base and a lot, so we saved substantial money there.
Great.
So.
Thank you, Doug. Good job. Account fund 81 student activity, 252964 be paid from the account fund 81 student activity. Number 5 is the 2021 Beaver Valley Intermediate Unit budget. It's recommended that the 2021 BVIU general operating budget in the amount of 1.4, almost 1.5 million is to be approved. It's further recommended that the board president and secretary be authorized to execute DECO 779 resolution form concerning the BVIU budget. So that's acting on our behalf, to have this board accept that budget. And then item number 6, and then I'll open it up for all discussion. Item number 6, Economy Elementary before and after school childcare. It's recommended to increase the salaries for this program. The director would increase from $11 to $16 an hour, and the caregivers would increase from $10 to $15. And I just thought, I asked Dr. King just to speak a little bit about that and why.
We need to do this because until this week, we didn't even have any workers to do this program. We started this program 7 years ago to entice families to bring their children back from Baden Academy. And in order to keep workers or hire new workers, there's no way we could do it at $10 an hour. So we were gonna be closed at this time last week. But now we have 2 applicants, and then we're gonna continue, and I would suggest that you raise the rates next year because they haven't been raised in 7 years.
So any discussion on any of these items?
I'm in agreement with that. I just wanted to say I've had several, I think all received emails from parents inquiring that were upset over and phone calls about
Me
not
too,
having
a
the
lot.
aftercare. So I'm glad to see this. I'm glad to hear that there's 2 perspectives. You know, I told the residents that, you know, we're working very diligently to try to get staffing. So thank you.
That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you. Moving forward to building and grounds, Mr. Angus.
There's nothing to discuss this evening.
Thank you. Athletics, Mr. Campbell.
Just a point of information. 3 members of the high school boys basketball team have been selected to play in the PBC All-Star Game in April. Liam Buck, Nevin Campalong, and Isaiah Thomas. Congratulations and good luck to these athletes.
All right, moving forward to public relations, Ms. Gill.
I just have a couple points of information. The first one is the Hall of Honor nominations are now being accepted until April 30th, 2020. Selected recipients will be recognized at the graduation ceremony on June 5th in the gymnasium, and applications may be obtained via the district's website. I also wanted to just say, give a special recognition to all the cast and crew of the musical, which Dr. Pasquarello mentioned. They all did a wonderful job on the stage, but it was also wonderful to see how they came together and bonded as a team off the stage too, which I think was particularly rewarding for everybody who was there and saw them after. And lastly, I want to give a special thanks to Principal Hoover and Kim Rappa at State Street Elementary for inviting us to come and read Dr. Seuss books for Dr. Seuss's birthday last week, and for giving us a tour of the building and letting us say hi to all the kids. So thank you very much. We had a great time. And not a point of information, but we're going to be hosting a district event. So it is recommended to approve a budget not to exceed $3,000 for the district-wide Spring Carnival event. This event is being designed to encourage current cyber charter school students who live in the Ambridge Area School District to enroll in our district. And we are excited to have Dr. Pasquarello to help us plan that event. That's it.
Is there going to be a steering committee for this, planning committee?
It's a spring carnival and it's on May 7th at 6 o'clock.
Do you have, like a team, did you put together like a team of people to organize?
You have to put the jobs out for bid, so we had about 4 people bid on the jobs right now, and then also we want all the high school clubs to be involved to be able to present all the academic programs at the high school.
And if anybody from the board that would love to be
Absolutely.
a part of it, we
We'll
would
need a lot
love
of
to
help.
have you. So just get with me and
Okay.
we'll talk about the next dates for another meeting.
Is this the one that's out in the field?
Well, it'll depend on weather, but June actually is going to be on the committee to help us. And Becky.
Great.
Becky Mace, one of our other secretaries. So I'm looking forward to a big, bright, successful event. The more help we have, the better. So whoever's interested in helping, please reach out. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to steering and rules, Mrs. Kehoe.
Okay, items 1 through 7 are going to be third readings, but item number 1 is policy 113.2, behavior support. It is to revise policy 113.2, behavior support, to recognize that positive behavior support is an integral part of classroom management. Are there any questions? Item number 2 is policy 227. And it is to recognize that the abuse of controlled substances is a serious problem with legal, physical, and social implications for the whole school community. Are there any questions? Item number 3, policy 233. It is to recognize that exclusion from the educational program of the schools, whether by suspension or expulsion, is the most severe sanction that can be imposed on a student and one that cannot be imposed without due process. Are there any questions? Item number 4, policy 626, procurement of federal programs. It is to integrate standard district purchasing procedure in accordance with federal and state laws, regulations, and board policy. Are there any questions? Item number 5, policy 7021, crowdfunding. It is to recognize that crowdfunding has become an increasingly popular method by which school districts and affiliated groups use to procure funding for specific projects and/or programs. This policy creates guidance relating to this practice. Is there any questions? Item number 6 is policy 808, food services. It is to recognize that students require adequate nourishing food and beverages in order to grow, learn, and maintain good health. Students shall be provided with adequate space and time to eat meals during the school day. Is there any questions? Item number 7, and you have it in front of you. It is recommended as a third reading to adopt School Board Policy 836, social media, to establish rules and guidance for the use of social media by students and employees. Is there any questions?
I have one question. If we have changes, should we forward those to June? Or requested, recommended?
Yes, you can do that.
Thank you.
Any others? That concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving on to legislative, Ms. Young.
Item number 1, resolution 2019-2020-6, calling for charter school funding reform, is recommended to adopt resolution same 2019-2020-6, calling for charter school funding reform. Item number 2, Allegheny County School Health Insurance Consortium mail ballot. Any questions on either?
You will have to select one of those 3 candidates to elect next week, and you have the resumes of them. I don't know if you want any other information. I can call around and find out.
Sure.
Or if you're looking for a recommendation, once I make some calls from us, let me know. I haven't done that, but, because I don't know the candidates either, but I can make calls to some of the districts and see who they're recommending.
That
If
would be
that's what-
great.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll do that for you.
Okay, any other questions? No? All right, moving forward to the sunshine law. June?
Section 708 of the Sunshine Law permits agencies to hold executive sessions to discuss employment and personnel matters, labor relations and arbitration matters, purchase or lease of real estate up to the time an option or agreement is obtained, litigation or potential litigation, legal matters subject to attorney-client privilege, and other agency business, which if discussed in public would violate lawful privilege or would violate confidentiality laws. The Board of School Directors held an executive session to discuss employment and personnel matters, salary schedule, labor relations, matters subject to attorney-client privilege, litigation matters. The board will not return to take any legislative action.
Thank you.
Mrs. President, prior to adjourning, can I ask Mr. King, would you give an update on what you had sent to us earlier today about the superintendents in how you're coordinating discussions with the Beaver County superintendents regarding the coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, right now, all the Beaver County superintendents, we're meeting every Monday at 8:30 to have joint statements about what we're doing about the coronavirus. Tomorrow at 9:00 a.m. we're releasing a joint statement. We're going to put it on Facebook, and as well we'll send out a Bridger blast here. But by the time we got the letter, everything's starting to change by the hour, and it's really starting to ramp up. So we'll communicate with families as best as we can, but we don't know where this thing's going to go yet. The governor had a webinar at 4 o'clock today, giving us the power to forgive days and do all kinds of different things. So we'll keep the community updated as best we can.
And I can add a little bit from a maintenance standpoint. We met with the leadership from the custodial maintenance group today. We've had some trouble with staffing, and we really had a good discussion about the fact that we're either going to have to put some overtime in or kind of pair up and make sure that we're getting in every classroom. We cannot not get into classrooms and wipe things down. We purchased hospital grade disinfectants that are combating against the coronavirus. We're purchasing some sprayers to spray down water fountains and things like that. And then we're putting a checklist in place for every room so that we know that it's been disinfected each night. So we are doing, we're stepping up the game from a cleanliness standpoint and trying to hit even areas that we don't typically have, like door handles and those types of things. So we did that discussion today, and we're going to put those in place immediately. So.
Any other questions? No, thank you for the update. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.